Hi there. I'm a massive fan of TYT and a huge fan of Wikileaks and Julian Assange, and I just thought I'd say that from the outset. This is my first video response. I suppose it's a video response towards the last TYT video about the Ecuadorian government granting Julian Assange asylum. And video response slightly negative because I felt there was some bias largely towards the attitude of the UK government. For various reasons. Do I think that Julian Assange should be extradited from Sweden to the United States? Of course not. Do I think that he raped anybody? Definitely not. Do I think that the girls or the WikiLeaks volunteers accusing him of rape have been coerced in some way by US authorities? Most likely. But I think he should be extradited from the UK to Sweden. The reason being that there are rape allegations charged against him, which have some validity, i.e., he's been accused of rape. That is why we have extradition laws. If it was any other person being accused of rape, they would be extradited immediately. There wouldn't be any question, there wouldn't be any media exposure on this at all. It happens all the time. It's why we have extradition laws. Is this politically motivated? Probably. I'm not sure. I really don't know. I think Sweden has the best human rights record of any country in the world. They probably do want him to come for questioning. I don't think they've struck a deal with the United States. Or maybe they have. I don't know, but it isn't the UK government's authority to be able to determine that if we extradite him to Sweden, then Sweden might extradite him to the United States might not give him a fair trial, and maybe the death penalty, and therefore we won't do it. Because we're dealing with Sweden and the United States. These are two countries that have relatively decent human rights records, especially Sweden. So if you can't extradite him to Sweden, who can you extradite anyone to, is my point. So the UK government are in a very precarious situation, because Julian Assange has gone through all our appeal processes in the courts, and it's been decided that he should be extradited. Then he's gone to the Ecuadorian embassy to seek refuge, and it then becomes a problem of what kind of precedent this is setting. When William Hague, the Foreign Secretary, has said that we must fulfil our obligations to extradite him to Sweden under the Extradition Act, he meant we're legally obliged to do so, not we have a moral obligation or a political obligation. We actually have a legal obligation to do so. If we don't do it, if we said no for political reasons, that would be abhorrent and ridiculous news story to say that the UK government isn't extraditing someone accused of rape to the place with the best human rights record in the world. It would simply never happen. So we have to extradite him. That makes sense. So the problem then becomes, what do you do about the Ecuadorian embassy? I kind of resented Kenk's comparison between us and the United States and human rights record. I think the UK government is significantly superior in that sense, and it's sort of, we've been put in a really terrible situation where we have to extradite someone brilliant like Julian Assange, and the courts don't have any political motivation. This was simply about the rape charges. If you look at the court documents, it's only talking about the rape charges. His involvement in WikiLeaks isn't even mentioned, other than the fact he worked there and so did the volunteers. So, if the Ecuadorian government then grant him asylum, if he granted another rapist, let's say, asylum, or somebody who had committed a murder or something, and then we would never grant him safe passage. This is an unprecedented story. This has never happened before. So what do you do in this situation? What are we supposed to do? We do have a law that allows policemen or authorities to go into embassies and temporarily suspend diplomatic rights. Should that happen? No. And the Russian ambassador, the UK ambassador in Moscow, actually said this is going to endanger the rights of many UK ambassadors in every country across the world. They might be treated differently due to this. So it's kind of a shitty situation to be in. So I'm curious to know what other people think about it. How did the UK government respond to this? Do they allow Julian Assange safe passage? Should he be extradited to Sweden, where he'll probably be given a fair trial? Do we have any responsibility to Julian Assange? Because it's so far removed, because we're talking about US authorities who haven't even mentioned extradition from Sweden. So it's very difficult, because it's setting a lot of precedents here. It's either setting precedent that we can raid embassies, and also resent it wasn't a threat. It was an acknowledgement of the law as it stands. So that was another problem I had with Kenk's statement. But the problem is, what does the UK government do? Do we allow him safe passage out into Ecuador? Do we raid an embassy? because there's only two consequences: either we defy the Extradition Act, or we defy diplomatic rights, and there's no like easy solution. There's no good solution. The UK government is going to be accused of being an arsehole in either sense, either by the Swedish authorities saying we're not strong enough and we can't fulfil our legal obligations to extradite, and maybe that might affect our ability to extradite British citizens here, or people who've committed crimes in Britain, or it might affect the rights of our diplomats and ambassadors abroad. So just curious to know what people thought about that.